In this world, there's one man who refuses to follow the script.
We have rules here, you know that. And if you don't follow the rules, then what are we?
One man stands tall in the face of adversity.
But it ain't about how hard you hit. It's about how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward.
A man who rises above the ashes of hot takes.
What do you care what they say?
Easy for you to say they will love you.
It's just noise, man. You're really good at it. You might be great.
That man is Nick Kostos. And this is You Better You Bet.
If loving sports is wrong, I don't want to be right.
Where narratives are challenged and the truth is spoken.
I told you what was going to happen last week. If you didn't listen, that's on you.
This isn't talk, it's perspective.
It's not what you look at that matters. It's what you see.
This is You Better You Bet, presented by BetMGM on Westwood One Sports.
What's up, everybody? Happy and merry, tremendous Sports Thursday to you and yours. This is You Better You Bet with Nick Kostos on Westwood One Sports, as we bring you the fastest show in all of sports. The show presented today and always by BetMGM. Make it legendary by downloading the BetMGM app and visiting BetMGM.com. And on this Thursday morning, the world of sports is buzzing. And we are going to get to all the big stories, including what the hell is going on with the San Francisco 49ers. We're just going to do this again this year in San Francisco. Just players dropping like flies. No big deal. Just injuries to a bunch of key players again for the 49ers. We will detail all of it and an injury-riddled Wednesday at NFL training camps later this hour on the show. We'll get into college football as well. Big Ten Media Days continue on in Chicago, and I've got a potential sleeper or two or three for you in the Big Ten. Can't wait to talk some college football later in the program. And why Tarek Skubal's start yesterday in Detroit against the Orioles will almost certainly be his final start as a Detroit Tiger, and why Hollywood couldn't have scripted the ending any more perfectly. Our bets for tonight will close the show. Had a lot of fun last night with my Yankees against Bill Zimmerman's White Sox. Yankees minus 1.5. Take an early 4-0 lead. First inning, Spencer Jones, 3-run. Spencer Jones and me. 3-run homer. Up 4-0. And they just give it up. No big deal. And then just a brain-dead play by Sanchez, the backup catcher, allows the White Sox to win the game. And Aaron Boone, after the game, you're going to be shocked. I know that you're not going to believe this, but Aaron Boone didn't have a problem with that play. When we are going to play the audio for you of the Yankees broadcast, and then we're going to play Aaron Boone's brain-dead commentary. I would say you can't make this stuff up, but it would actually be more surprising if he told the truth after these games, instead of lying through his teeth like he always does. Can you tell that A, I'm a Yankee fan, and B, I had money on the game? We'll attempt to do better at the end of the show. Bets for tonight will close it out in the final hour, Power Hour. 310-840-4910 is the number. YouTube.com/@thekostos, TheKostos. You can follow me, your boy, Nick Kostos, on all social media platforms at the Kostos, TheKostos. But we officially begin the tremendous Sports Thursday edition of You Better You Bet with a big deal in the Big Apple. And when I say the Big Apple, I mean the Greenbrier in West Virginia. We're close enough. Where the New York Football Giants are holding their 2026 training camp, the first under the stewardship of new head coach John Harbaugh. And yes, a lot of people think John Harbaugh might have embarrassed himself with that speech that he gave that went viral. We are the New York Football Giants. Got zero reaction from anyone on the team, anyone in that conference room. To which I say, honestly, you can criticize John Harbaugh, no question about it. I'm not convinced he's going to be this awesome head coach. I think he kind of lost his fastball the last couple of years in Baltimore, even if I think he's a good leader and can raise the floor of the team. To me, I thought the message was great. How great is it to be a New York Football Giant? Not his fault that no one responds to him in those moments. But this is not about John Harbaugh. No. This is about day one of New York Football Giants training camp, day one of practices. Number one is on the field. And number one for the New York Football Giants, wide receiver one for the New York Football Giants. That, of course, is Malik Neighbors. And I'll be candid with everybody, right? I'm always honest with you about my fandom. As the Knicks are streaking towards an NBA championship, as Aaron Boone infuriates me on a nightly basis. When I saw, as a lifelong diehard fan of the New York Football Giants, Malik Neighbors, and we knew he wasn't going to be placed on PUP. We knew that. And it kind of seemed like it didn't necessarily mean anything. Maybe he still won't be ready for the start of the season. But then we get the practice video, right, yesterday. And Neighbors is running, and he's cutting, and he's catching, coming off that horrific injury that he suffered in Week 4 last season. Not just a torn ACL for Malik Neighbors, but a torn lateral meniscus, an injury that has obviously caused him a ton of issues this offseason, had a second cleanup procedure. And where there was once pessimism as it regards Malik Neighbors and his availability, not just for Week 1, Sunday night, September 13th at home against the Dallas Cowboys, but for the beginning of the season. And I think fair questions to ask were, is Neighbors going to be himself for this entire year for the Giants? Where there was once pessimism, there now has to be optimism. And I'm just going to read a couple quotes from a couple NFL reporters. ESPN's Jordan Renan, who covers the Giants for ESPN. Quote, "This bodes well for Neighbors in Week 1. ESPN's Adam Schefter. Neighbors, quote, tracking to play on opening night. Connor Hughes, who covers the Giants for our friends at SNY locally here in New York. Realistic expectation that Neighbors plays in Week 1. Forgive the pun. It's gigantic for the Giants. It's everything for the New York Football Giants to have Malik Neighbors in the lineup. Now, obviously, you need Neighbors to be Neighbors. You need him to be what he was prior to the injury. It can't be 80% Malik Neighbors. It can't be Neighbors is kind of finding his footing for the first half of the season, and then second half of the season you get full-on Malik Neighbors. Because if that's the case, the 2026 New York Football Giants are sunk. They are absolutely sunk. Malik Neighbors, whether you think he might be, because look, he drops some passes sometimes. He can be a little inconsistent, right? And I know that there are some people that are annoyed by that. And a lot of them are Giants fans. It's just like, I feel, I don't know. I feel like the Giants fan base, and I'm among them, right? I feel like is pretty stupid, unfortunately. So I know we have a lot of Giants fans that like the show. I'm not saying you specifically are stupid, but I feel like we collectively as a fan base are pretty dumb. So, Malik Neighbors, he's not that good. We don't need him. Drops too many passes. Do you understand how stupid that is? I just want to tell the truth. Like, let's just be honest. If Malik Neighbors is right, if he's healthy, he is one of the best wide receivers in the league. Like, he is. He is a true, legitimate wide receiver one, an alpha wide receiver in the NFL. And Malik Neighbors, not John Harbaugh, not Arvell Reese, not Brian Burns, not Abdul Carter, not Cam Scatabo and his 8 brain cells. You can even make a case, not even really Jackson Dart, although Dart, I guess, would be the ultimate answer to this question. But we're expecting Dart to be healthy as long as he doesn't run headfirst into defenders every other play. The most important player on the Giants this season is Malik Neighbors. And if you, out there listening or watching the show, if you wanted to make a case for the New York Football Giants this season to exceed expectations, to make a run towards the postseason, to finally move out of this wilderness that they've been in basically since they beat the Patriots in Super Bowl 46. And I understand a couple trips to the postseason, literally 2 since then. and did go to the playoffs. Year one of Brian Dable with Daniel Jones, won that wild card game on the road in Minnesota before getting stuffed into a locker, really into a coffin, by Jalen Hurts and the Philadelphia Eagles. If you wanted to make a case that the New York Football Giants are ready to emerge out of the football wilderness, Malik Neighbors has to be a part of it. He just does. He just does. And I think this is an unassailable, inarguable point. I don't think there's a legitimate argument to be constructed to the contrary. If you wanted to construct an argument to the contrary, you would make it, and then you'd be called in front of the Senate for a judiciary hearing, and you'd have to plead the fifth. You'd say, should Malik Neighbors play for the New York Football Giants this season? And your response would be, I've been advised by my lawyers to not answer this question. That's what would happen. Malik Neighbors has to play this season if the New York Football Giants are going to be good. Let's talk about the pass catchers on this team to really punch this point home. There is a lot of excitement, and I'm excited for it, to the point that in the Scott Fish Bowl, which is kind of the kickoff unofficially to fantasy football draft season that thousands of people play in, including media members like me and fantasy football experts, I drafted Isaiah Likely fairly early in a tight end premium draft. I think Isaiah Likely can absolutely have a nice season this year catching the ball for the New York Football Giants. But it is worth noting, Isaiah Likely has never caught more than 42 passes in a single season. Now you might say, well, Mark Andrews is there, right? Okay, maybe. Maybe that has something to do with it. Also, John Harbaugh was the coach in Baltimore when Isaiah Likely was there. I'm not saying Likely can't or won't have a good season, just that it's facts, not an evidence. We've never seen it before. Even if we want to project this going out that this could do pretty well for Isaiah Likely catching passes from Jackson Dart. The wide receivers. Darius Slayton, who somehow, some way, is still employed by the New York Football Giants. It's not that he's bad. I think he's probably like a league average receiver with above average speed. He's not bad. And if the Giants cut him, he would absolutely get picked up by another team. But he's not a special receiver. And at this point, it feels like three things in life are certain. You're going to die. You got to pay taxes, unless you like to evade them, in which case you're probably going to jail. And Darius Slayton will be a member of the New York Football Giants. Like the nukes will hit, and it'll be cockroaches and Darius Slayton in a Giants jersey. When it's all said and done, the dust has settled and the smoke is cleared. Okay, let's move on from Slayton. Here is Calvin Austin. I'd rather have Stone Cold Steve Austin. What? Than Calvin Austin. Juju Smith-Schuster. What? Darnell, when you get caught between the Mooney and New York City. What? 33-year-old Odell Beckham. What? Like Instagram sensation Braxton Berrios. What? And Notre Dame rookie Malachi Fields, who I actually am a little excited for. Is Jalen Hyatt even still on this team? What a disaster pick that was for Joe Shane. So none of these names, Slayton, Austin, Juju, Mooney, Beckham, Berrios. Maybe you want to make an upside case for Malachi Fields. We can make it. Haven't seen him play. Maybe he's awesome. Also, maybe he's not. We have no idea. Think about it. And throw Isaiah Likely into the mix as well. This is not like the 2007 Patriots in terms of pass-catching talent. It's not. And if Neighbors isn't in the mix, if he's less than 100%, if he suffers a setback and he can't go, they're screwed. Like, that's it. You don't have a functional offense without this guy. You don't have a guy that you can lean on in the passing game. And what does that mean? There's a trickle-down effect for the rest of the roster, right? Now, the Giants' offensive line, to me, seems to be the best it's been on paper in quite some time. I mean that sincerely. Andrew Thomas, one of the best left tackles in football. You bring back, when he's healthy, which is not all the time, sadly. Jermaine Illuminor is going to be at right tackle for at least one more year. Francis Maui-Noah, 10th overall pick in the draft. Like, I actually think the offensive line profiles pretty well this year for the Giants. Like Cam Scatterbo, I think he's nuts. And I'd like for him to grow up a little bit. And this is where I do sound like a 43-year-old boomer. But you know what? Like, you shattered your leg and you're doing backflips. Like, in what universe is this smart? But Scatterbo did show you something last year, and if he can return to form, and Jackson Dart can give you something here, like now we're talking, this is a true functional offense for the New York Football Giants. But without Neighbors, I don't think they have much of a passing game. And what do you think that does to the run game? Makes it way, way harder. And then you consider the offensive coordinator and play caller. Former Bears head coach Matt Nagy, who apparently did such a good job, sarcasm, for the Kansas City Chiefs last year and the last couple years that they literally just let his contract expire and let him bounce. And did a thank you, Coach Nagy tweet. Well, yes, I'm sure they were very thankful for his services in that they didn't try and pick and sign him and make him the offensive coordinator of the team. Instead, they let him walk after his contract expired. Didn't have to fire him, right? Because the contract expired and Eric Bieniemy comes back. Hiring Matt Nagy with his background, what he did in Chicago with the Bears. I know they went to the playoffs a couple times, but you know what? This was not someone that we look at as Bill Walsh, right? To coach this group of misfits on offense for the Giants would be like if you had a class of troubled teens and brought in an ex-con to teach them. Well, what's happening here? But Malik Neighbors is good enough to raise the ceiling of that unit, to make everything else work. Now let's go to the defensive side of the ball, where the Giants, the defense, I think you can tell yourself a story that this defense could be really, really good this season. Stocked with pass rushers. Abdul Carter, Brian Burns, Kayvon Thibodeau. I'm obsessed with Arvell Reese, the 5th overall pick in the draft. You know I thought the Jets should have taken him over David Bailey at 2nd overall. And I think Arvell Reese's upside is to win Defensive Rookie of the Year. So I like some of these pieces on the Giants defense. The problem is going to be, and I liked the Dexter Lawrence trade. I would make it 100 times over. The Giants are going to have issues stopping the run. And if they can't score enough to get the lead on teams, which they're not going to be able to do more often than not without Neighbors, or if Neighbors isn't healthy, then how are you going to rush the passer? What's going to happen? You need to put teams in passing situations. And I think teams are going to be able to run all over the Giants this year. And yes, that is a negative from the Dexter Lawrence trade because the defensive tackles, whether it's Shelby Harris, Darius Alexander, second-year player, I don't think they're going to be a great run-stopping defensive line. And if they don't have the lead, then Abdul Carter and Brian Burns and Kayvon Thibodeau aren't going to be able to pin their ears back and just get after that ass multiple times a game, every game. And the insinuation for me is not that they'll have 0 sacks. These are really talented players, obviously. But in order for the vision to truly be realized here, for these pass rushers to do what they're capable of doing, to unleash Arvell Reese in the way you want to unleash Arvell Reese, we got to score some points. You have to. And if all of these things can happen in concert, yeah, the Giants could win 10 games this year. I think that's probably their upside, is to win 10 games. And maybe you want to, what if Jackson Dart's awesome? It's possible. It's also possible he's bad. We don't know. We have no idea on Jackson Dart. No idea. Maybe the Giants could really exceed expectations this year. It is possible that that's the case. And I, as a Giants fan, am cautiously optimistic for it happening. Even if I am concerned that Jackson Dart seems to be, pays more attention to social media and being a star and showing up at the Met Gala with his Instagram model girlfriend and showing up for political events than he is potentially on winning football games. And I'm rooting for him. I want him to be great. And I hope he is. And you can make the case that he'll be good and that the Giants will exceed expectations this year. The only way it happens, the only way, and not the only way, because you could say, what if Andrew Thomas, what if Darts gets hurt? I would say the thing that matters most right now for the Giants, assuming Thomas stays healthy, Dart stays healthy, etc., is that Malik Neighbors is good to go in week 1. Because if you get a healthy Malik Neighbors this season, I don't know that I would pick the Giants or bet the Giants to make the postseason, but I'd be willing to entertain the conversation with people who do believe it. Because the upside will be there if he's healthy. But if he's not, if there's a setback, if he misses time to start the year, If he's not what he was and it takes him half the season to get there, forget about it. Forget about it. Forget about it. Next offseason, the Giants could potentially acquire another awesome wide receiver pass catcher and lessen the burden on Malik Neighbors having to carry the offense. But that's for next year. That's a next free agency and next year's NFL draft conversation. For this year, they need Neighbors to be healthy. They need wide receiver one, number one, on the field and ready to go in week one for all of this to work. We're just getting started here on a tremendous Sports Thursday. You better you bet Westwood One Sports with me, Nick Kostos, presented by BetMGM. On the other side, this was, look, yesterday, Wednesday, a crappy day in the National Football League. A bunch of my text message threads with people in the NFL media and friends of mine that love the NFL, we're just kind of like, man, can you believe all these injuries today? Yesterday sucked. A bunch of huge injuries at big positions for certain teams. We'll get to all of them on the other side. We'll talk the Cincinnati Bengals and Shamar Stewart, the New Orleans Saints and Brian Bresee, and the San Francisco 49ers. And it's just meet the new year, same as the old year. Keep it locked right here. You better, you bet.
Now, back to You Better You Bet with Nick Kostos, presented by BetMGM on Westwood One Sports.
This segment on You Better You Bet sponsored by Progressive Commercial Insurance, protecting your business vehicles 24/7. See if you can save at progressivecommercial.com, progressivecommercial.com. We will get to Cincinnati Bengals, the New Orleans Saints, the San Francisco 49ers, and more, an injury-riddled Wednesday training camps around the National Football League. But we do have a piece of breaking news want to get into the show here as it concerns college football and the University of North Carolina. So we told you earlier this week that North Carolina, like general manager, or whatever his title is, Mike Lombardi, Bill Belichick's right-hand man, his consigliere at North Carolina, who claimed, Mike Lombardi did, that North Carolina would be the 33rd NFL team. The 33rd NFL team. Hard to be the 33rd NFL team when you go 4-8 in college football. Mike Lombardi earlier this week was placed on administrative leave for an unknown HR violation, someone putting forth a complaint that used to work for North Carolina football. So North Carolina just put out a statement, North Carolina football did this morning, and this is courtesy of Bruce Feldman from The Athletic. Quote, as a result of concerns behind allegations that led to the personnel action regarding Michael Lombardi announced on July 27th, aka Monday, the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill, through its Office of University Counsel, is in the process of investigating this matter. Because this involves confidential personnel issues, the university will not comment on the nature of the allegations or discuss personnel information. So obviously, this is kind of like a non-statement by North Carolina. They're just putting out there, yes, we are aware of what's happening. We're not going to tell you anything until we know more, but that's what's happening right now. I don't know or claim to know Michael Lombardi personally. He's actually come on. He's been on You Better You Bet before. Been a guest that we've been on the air for 7 years. 8 years? 7 calendar years, 8 football seasons since 2019. He's been a guest on the show before. I don't know him personally. But all you need to do, and I'm not insinuating that anything horrible has happened. I have no idea. Just that if you read what a lot of people write and listen to what a lot of people say that are familiar with this guy, it doesn't seem like this is the biggest surprise of all time. And again, like, this doesn't have to mean this is like a horrible crime has been committed. This could be like he's yelling at a staffer who didn't like. I have no idea. Who knows, right? Just that doesn't seem to be a huge shock based on people that know him and what they are saying. I don't know him, right? Maybe he's a saint. I don't know. Maybe he's a great guy. But what we have now for North Carolina is the longest, like the latest rather, in a long line of black eyes for this program since Bill Belichick took over. And look, I fell for it. When North Carolina announced it was hiring Bill Belichick, I'm like falling all over myself here. I'm an NFL guy through and through. And I know, and I'm not going to do the whole Bill Belichick career Rolodex thing, but just that, the greatest head coach in the history of the National Football League and the greatest defensive coordinator in the history of the National Football League as well. And I was pissed that the Atlanta Falcons, for instance, brought Bill in for multiple interviews and then hired Raheem Morris at the 11th hour. And it's not an anti-Raheem Morris thing, but it felt like this was done, and there was reporting on this from ESPN, that this was kind of like people wanted to embarrass Bill Belichick. And the NFL wanted to embarrass Bill Belichick. Because, he had the reign of terror with the Patriots, and did they cheat, and all the other nonsense, etc. The NFL felt like he was trying to send him a message. And I didn't like that. As someone who is a student of the history of the game. And understands Bill Belichick's rightful place in the history of the game. And it wasn't necessarily that I felt like in year one, North Carolina was going to win the title. Although I expected them to be way better than they were. We're now a year into this. The season's starting soon. North Carolina's win total. And we're in an NIL age. Where Kurt Signetti won a national championship at Indiana. At Indiana. Won the Natty. And was in the playoff the year before. Where Texas Tech, who was once known for Patrick Mahomes and Cliff Kingsbury, and Mike Leach and high-flying offenses that never amounted to anything in terms of big picture results, We now live in an age where if you've got money, you can win. If you've got money, you can win. North Carolina is not exactly lacking for famous or rich alum. And Bill Belichick, out of all the coaches in the history of the game, this guy can't get enough NIL money to build the 33rd NFL team. North Carolina's win total this year at BetMGM is 4.5. 125-1 is North Carolina's price. Not to win. Listen to me here. This is an important distinction to draw. Not to win the national championship. To win the ACC. Not the SEC. Not the Big Ten. Not even the Big 12. 125-1 to win the Atlantic Coast Conference. You bet on this Thursday. Nick Kostos and you, Westwood One Sports. And we look and think about the laundry list of pathetic events and things that have occurred since Bill Belichick took over. And I am not a Bill Belichick hater. I want him to succeed. I think it would be great if North Carolina were good. I'm a Giants fan. I grew up with him as the defensive coordinator of my favorite team, helping the Giants to win Super Bowls 21 and 25. His game plan for Super Bowl 25, which is the first Super Bowl I remember watching from start to finish, his game plan for that game, Giants 20, Bills 19, January 27th, 1991 in Tampa, Florida. His game plan, which is basically allow Hall of Fame running back Thurman Thomas to run for over 100 yards, and the Giants would win the game if that happened. They did. Is in Canton, is in the Hall of Fame. I want this to go well. It hasn't. And there have been many embarrassments along the way. Do you remember the season opening game for North Carolina last year? Monday Night Football, right? Against TCU. And North Carolina took an early 7-0 lead. And the camera shows Belichick on the sideline, and he's grinning like the Cheshire Cat. And social media is ablaze, including me. I'm caught up in the excitement. Oh, my God. North Carolina football, Bill Belichick. Yeah, final score. TCU 48, North Carolina 14. Bill Belichick last year lost to Cal, Duke, not in basketball, in football, Duke, Wake Forest, and I understand Duke had a good year. The point is that Bill Belichick's losing to Duke. Duke, Wake Forest, NC State, 4-8. All the nonsense with Jordan Hudson. And this is my opinion. I don't care if you agree with this. As a girl dad, as the dad of a girl, he's a creep. He's 70. Well, Bill, how old is Bill Belichick? In his 70s. Dating a girl in her 20s. He has no business doing this. And for any man out there in the audience listening or watching this being like, yeah, good for him. He's 74 years old. Yeah, good for him. I guarantee you this. If you were the father to a girl, you would not feel that way. I promise you. I promise you that. He's got no business doing this. No business. 25 years old. It's pathetic. I'm sorry. It is. It is. And now this Mike Lombardi stuff. What a shock, right? Based on what a lot of people are saying. All the things that I've just laid out for you. The disaster against TCU. All the losses to, it's beneath Bill Belichick to be losing to Cal, right? Jordan Hudson. All that nonsense. Pablo Torre finding out. Mike Lombardi. Do you know what the biggest black eye on this is for Bill Belichick? The most pathetic thing on a CVS receipt worthy list of pathetic things for Bill Belichick at North Carolina. One word. Apathy. Now I'm talking about it right now. I am. Because I'm infuriated by it. I want this to go well. How many people do you think really care about North Carolina football this year? How many? How many? Last summer, this was a huge story because it was year one. What's this going to be? Is Bill Belichick going to work his magic here? Is Carolina going to be in the mix in the ACC? Could they make the college football playoff? Does anyone think that now? Does anyone say that? Does anybody care? Does anybody care? When you talk about college football with your friends, do you talk about North Carolina? When you talk about games you're excited for this season, does North Carolina ever come up? Think about how pathetic that is. The greatest head coach in the history of the National Football League is coaching college football, and nobody cares. Nobody cares. Sad. 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 I almost can't believe that this is where we find ourselves right now. How about this? Courtesy of our friend Andrew Marchand of The Athletic, friend of the show. Quote, ESPN closing on a deal for a, quote, Last Dance style documentary for LeBron James. LeBron would have a camera crew with him this season in Philadelphia. So the implication there is that this would be LeBron's final season. If that's, I'm guessing that. Didn't LeBron, I feel like he wants to play 2 more years. I got to tell you, this would be the classic LeBron thing of all time. Would be like, let's do a Last Dance documentary, and then he would come back for another season, and they'd have to film him again. just very funny. Now, I like LeBron. I enjoy LeBron. I'd like for LeBron to stick around for as long as he'd like because I think he makes sports more interesting. This stuff is going to piss a lot of people off. Now, say what you want about Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan's approval rating's pretty high. Like everyone, and of course a function of this is COVID, obviously, and there's no sports going on. We treated The Last Dance with Jordan like it was Game 7 of the World Series. Like a cultural event during COVID. Cultural event, right? I don't think people will treat a LeBron James Last Dance documentary quite the same way. And look, if you were asked about it by senators of the United States, like, hey, what'd you think of Michael Jordan's documentary, The Last Dance, during COVID while we were all inside? You know what you could do under your constitutional rights? Take the Fifth. This is a great country, man. The United States of America. And I mean that sincerely. We'll take a break. And on the other side, Injury Wednesday in the National Football League, the 49ers, the Saints, and the Bengals, chief among them. Presented by BetMGM.
Now, back to You Better You Bet with Nick Kostos, presented by BetMGM on Westwood One Sports.
Did your home run bet come up short? Thanks to today's MLB No Sweat Home Run Token, you don't have to worry if your bet didn't clear the fences. Just activate the token when you bet on any player to hit a home run, and if that player fails to go yard, you'll get your stake back in bonus bets. That is a great deal from our friends at BetMGM. Download the BetMGM app today, and as always, please gamble responsibly. We're going to be joined by former MLB General Manager, MLB Network Radio, MLB Network's own Steve Phillips at the top of the next hour to talk the trade deadline a couple days away. And Tarek Skubal going to be traded by the Tigers, the Yankees, the Phillies, the Brewers, and more. And, of course, the LA Dodgers. Steve Phillips going to join us in about 15 minutes. But we have some news coming out of the National Football League. And this falls under the umbrella of, boy, that was quick. Remember yesterday, we broke into the show to tell you that Atlanta Falcons quarterback Tua Tagovailoa was going to miss some time with tightness in his back. And, Michael Penix Jr. is not going to be cleared for a month. So undrafted rookie free agent Jack Strand was the QB1 yesterday in Atlanta. Cooper Rush got signed. He'll be practicing, obviously, with Atlanta. And guess who else today is practicing with Atlanta? Tua Tagovailoa is already back for the Falcons. There is video of Tua. I'm watching it right now, courtesy of our friend Mark Ramindy, who covers the Falcons for ESPN, of Tua working out with Bijan Robinson and Penix in individual drills. And remember, yesterday we told you that Bijan Robinson, along with Detroit Lions running back Jahmyr Gibbs, holding in at training camp, both want new deals. My expectation is that both of those star running backs, who will go in 99.9% of fantasy leagues, as long as the people in those leagues have functioning brains, Bijan and Gibbs will be the first and second pick in whatever order you would like to take them. So I wanted to get that news in for Falcons fans. Tua is practicing, and if Tua is healthy this year, I think the Falcons are going to win the NFC South. I like Atlanta in that division if indeed Tua Tagovailoa is going to be healthy. Speaking of health, San Francisco 49ers, once again, don't seem to have a lot of it. And this is just, it's like a sick joke. That's what it's feeling like. Every single year, like clockwork, set your watch to it. 49ers players dropping like flies. Not just in training camp. Wait till the regular season starts. I don't know if it's the electrical substation. Remember, we had Kendrick Bourne on Radio Row at the Super Bowl this year, and Kendrick Bourne's like, yeah, I think it might be the substation. Also, he's now on the Arizona Cardinals. Wanted no part of San Francisco anymore. I don't know what it is, but it happens all the time. And it's even extended, obviously, to the head coach. And all that with the car accident, and was it his fault or not, and people treating this like it's a congressional inquiry. I don't understand. Look, you can care if you want to. I don't care at all. Let's talk about the players on the field and how it impacts, the whole fun of sports. Games. Why we watch. Ricky Pearsall. It's like you say that name amongst people that love fantasy football and the scowls that you will get. You could find a fantasy football diehard player on the best day of his or her life, just got married, had a kid, and just say the words Ricky Pearsall, and you will see that smile form into a frown because he can't stay healthy. And it's not that he's a bad player. I think he's really good. He just can't stay on the field. Now, some of it's not his fault, like when he got shot prior to his rookie season and missed half the year. That's not his fault. But even since then, unable to stay on the field, various injuries, whether it's a hamstring injury, whether it's the PCL injury that cost him half the season last year. And now, Ricky Pearsall has swelling in his knee as a result of last year's PCL injury, which has the 49ers, quote, exploring all options, and there is, quote, some concern. There are NFL reporters, both nationally and in the Bay Area, who are not saying concretely, so please don't confuse what I'm going to say, who believe that surgery might be an option for Ricky Pearsall. Like, you can't make this stuff up. Christian Kirk, another wide receiver brought in by the 49ers, he's currently dealing with an injury, as is offensive lineman Vidarian Lowe, as is safety Malik Mustafa. Maybe Scars looking to push him off a cliff. Running back Jordan James, who profiles as the direct backup to Christian McCaffrey. He's got a rib fracture. Just the same old story with the 49ers. And I love the Niners, and I think this could be their year. But if they're going to have none of their players healthy again, I don't know how you can get there. And if you put the Niners in the NFC South, we're talking. In the NFC West, with Seattle, the defending Super Bowl champions, and the absolutely loaded, filthy Los Angeles Rams, I'm starting to lose some faith here. And I know we're only a couple days into camp, and I'm not going to supremely overreact. But, this happens every year now with San Francisco. Now, all of a sudden, right, with Jordan James hurt, and with this Pearsall situation, and maybe Pearsall will be fine. I don't know. But what I will say is, if you play fantasy football, and I know a lot of you do, because it's awesome, the Niners got heavily criticized this past April for a couple of their draft picks. Oh my God, how could you took them too early? All the consensus draft boards had them going 2 rounds later. Stop crying. Stop. Dazon Stribling, the second-round receiver they took, by all accounts has been lighting up train. Brock Purdy can't stop talking about how good Stribling is. He might start at receiver for them this year in a Kyle Shanahan offense opposite Mike Evans. To quote that old dude from Entourage whose name I can never remember, is that something you might be interested in? What about running back Kalen Black? Oh my God, they took him 2 rounds too early. Yeah, he might be the direct backup to Christian McCaffrey now. Is that something you might be interested in fantasy football? Just saying. I'd love for the 49ers. Can we just get the Niners healthy for the rest of training camp, please? Get my guy Kyle Shanahan back and healthy for week 1 in Melbourne against the Rams. Please. Please. One other injury note. We'll talk Bengals later in the show. The New Orleans Saints, it looks like they have lost defensive lineman Brian Bresee, first-round pick in 2023 for the season with a torn ACL. Saints coach Kellen Moore saying it doesn't look good, looks like a serious injury for Bresee. Now, Brian Bresee, no one's going to confuse him with Pat Swilling. That's not what it is. Or Cameron Jordan. Or some of the great pass rushers in the league. But he's expected to start this season. Basically plays every game, 14 and a half career sacks in 49 games, and was praised big time after last season for his improvements in run defense. So we're going to see a couple young players, including Kristen Miller, draft pick by the Saints this year, needing to step up. I think there is, and I talked with Kellen Moore about this, Coach Moore, when he joined us on the show a couple months ago. I think there's legitimate cause for optimism with the Saints' offense this year. And second-year quarterback Tyler Shuck, and Chris Olave, once they give him the extension, he's holding in right now, they'll figure that out. And rookie wide receiver Jordan Tyson and Travis Etienne, and a really underrated offensive line. My problem with the Saints has been, though, even if I think Brandon Staley is an awesome defensive coordinator, I don't like the talent on defense. And I absolutely think the Saints are marching in the right direction, but that's more of a 2027 thing. Now, maybe the offense is just good enough that they outscore teams, and it's certainly possible that that's the case if Tyler Shuck hits his ceiling. But what I think's more likely, and I've been on record saying this for a while now, is that the defense is going to be what costs them. And it can absolutely get fixed heading into next year. Spend more time on the defense, more focus on the defense. But for now, this Brian Bresee season-ending injury kind of underscores what I think the problem for the 2026 Saints is going to be. They'll be fun. They could potentially score a lot of points. But in the end, I don't think they're ready just yet for prime time. One of the reasons why I like the Falcons a little bit better than the Saints, the Panthers, and even the Bucks, with their contract messes with Baker Mayfield and Vita Vea in the NFC South. Hour 1 done, hour 2 for you coming up on the other side. We will start hour number 2, talking Major League Baseball with former general manager, friend of the show, the great Steve Phillips. Keep it locked.
names in the business are on You Better You Bet with Nick Kostos.
Hey, this is Joe Buck, and you have done it. You have found it. You are listening to You Better You Bet. Great decision.
This is Bob Costas, not Kostos, but you are listening to Nick Kostos on You Better You Bet.
Hi, this is Kevin Harlan of CBS, Westwood One, and TNT, and I'm listening as you do every day to You Better You Bet with the most handsome single man in the radio business. A man who, if I was not married for 38 years, I might consider myself the kind of guy that can electrify a listening audience and a crowd of bystanders watching him do what he does so well each and every day. Continue to listen right here on You Better You Bet.
This is You Better You Bet on Westwood One Sports, brought to you by BetMGM.
The tremendous Sports Thursday edition of You Better You Bet rolls on. Nick Kostos, our amazing crew, and you, here on Westwood One Sports. First hour of the show, super duper fun, talking about Malik Neighbors' return to practice for the New York Football Giants and why he holds the key to any Giants' success this season. We talked about North Carolina football and the disaster that has become with the statement put out about Michael Lombardi and the school's investigation into Lombardi, and how the most pathetic thing for Bill Belichick at North Carolina, not the losses on the field, not the Michael Lombardi situation, but the apathy around the program. We got into the San Francisco 49ers, Ricky Pearsall hurt again, and what that means for San Francisco this season. The New Orleans Saints losing Brian Bresee for the season to a torn ACL. We will get to the Cincinnati Bengals and the injury for Shamar Stewart, why that matters for the Bengals defense. We'll talk some Cleveland Browns. The Browns keep extending players in their secondary on defense. I believe I have the answer as to why. We'll do some Major League Baseball and college football as well, with Big Ten Media Days raging right now in Chicago. But joining us right now to talk some Major League Baseball ahead of the trade deadline, one of our favorites, friend of the show, former MLB general manager, MLB Network Radio, MLB Network, TSN, the great Steve Phillips on Twitter at Steve Phillips GM. I am sure at 10:02 a.m. Eastern on this Thursday that he is well caffeinated. Steve, welcome back to the show. Your pal Nick Kostos, what's up?
Hey, Nick, what's going on? And yeah, everything's good here. And yes, I've had some Celsius, I've had some coffee, and so I'm good to go.
I would love if you're the best, man. I would love if you could expound. What does, this is like Bill Clinton, and I would love to know what the definition of some is here when we're talking some Celsius and some coffee.
Right. So I've had one can of Celsius and then two large coffees this morning, and like the Dunkin' Donuts large coffees, and so look, when you get up early like we do, I mean, I'm up at 4:45 in the morning to get ready for the show, and from 7 to 10, and I got a shower, and I can't just, like I used to be able to do the radio show from home, and I could be in sweats and not have to shower before the show. But now that we're on TV simulcast in the last hour, you got to get prettied up each day. So it's you got to get up early for all that stuff.
What time do you go to bed?
Generally between 11 and midnight. I don't get much sleep.
It's tough.
And then what happens is that no matter what, because of the amount of caffeine that I consume, at about 2:30, my eyes close no matter what I'm doing. I could be driving on I-95 and my eyes close. And so I put that out there as a warning to anybody that tomorrow I'll be driving back from Connecticut, or from New Jersey to Connecticut. And so if you're on I-95, anywhere in the 2 to 4 time frame, beware. I'm just saying, enter at your own risk.
Have you ever thought, I promise we'll talk baseball in a second. Have you ever thought of doing comedy? Like, I mean this sincerely, you're very funny, and your deadpan delivery is very funny.
No, I appreciate that. I have not. Now, generally, what happens on our show is I make a joke, and nobody laughs, because that's become the thing. They don't want to honor the humor in anything. And so they make me beg for the jokes and the laughs and everything else. So it works. I mean, I do beg. And so, no, but it's, I do always say, every once in a while say, by the way, I'll be appearing at the Chuckle Hut all week long here in Secaucus, New Jersey. If you're around, be sure to stop by and see me.
I'm being serious. Like, I think this is like an exceptionally criminally underrated sense of humor from our friend Steve Phillips. All right. Purpose of this interview, and we could talk comedy all day. Let's get into some Major League Baseball. So, this Tarek Skubal, Steve, start yesterday for the tie. I mean, Hollywood couldn't have scripted this better. Leaves with a 7-0 lead. Tigers lose the game. Trade deadline coming up in a couple days here. ESPN's Jeff Passan, one of your colleagues in the baseball media, saying last night, like, the Tigers are going to trade Tarek Skubal. Before we get to the potential teams that could trade for Skubal, do you agree with Jeff Passan? Have you heard similar? Like, what would Steve Phillips say right now is the % chance that Tarek Skubal is dealt at some point in between now and Monday's trade deadline?
Yeah, I think it's probably 100% at this point. I think they have to trade him. They're 4.5 out. They're 7 games under 500. There are 11 teams with better records than them in the American League. And they're not playing like a playoff team. And so I think it makes sense for them to do it. And remember, it's not just trading Skubal, because they're going to trade Casey Mize, who's going to bring back a nice return. He's one of the better pitchers available. And then they're going to trade Kenley Jansen, they're going to trade Gleyber Torres. And so they got a chance to bring back, 10 to 12 prospects that could dramatically turn things around. And here's the thing. The Troy Melton kid in their rotation is an ace. And they're going to get Jackson Jobe, one of the top pitching prospects in baseball, back later this summer from Tommy John. They have Framber Valdez. And so they're not that far away from, at least having a good pitching staff next year, that even with trading Skubal, it's going to refortify their farm system in a way with Major League ready talent and upper level talent. So it's the right thing for them at the time. And, holding on to him right now, I think would be malpractice. It's what I thought a few years back when the Angels held on to Ohtani. I feel like this is malpractice for an organization, because not only did they hold Ohtani back then, well, they could have gotten, 5, top flight prospects like the Soto deal was back in the day. But they also, they went on to trade to buy at that time frame and gave up 10 prospects. And so it was like a net minus 15 prospects for them when they made that mistake. And so it's the right thing for the Tigers to do this. And it'll also be the thing that allows them to win the most games for the most number of years by trading him at this point.
I was actually, just as an aside, we'll get to, I was thinking this week, like, is Artie Moreno like the worst owner in sports, the owner of the Angels? We don't have to talk about that. It doesn't really matter for right now. But I was literally thinking that like 2 days ago, and then you brought up the Ohtani situation from a couple of years ago. So you heard it there from Steve Phillips, who's as plugged in as it gets. 100% chance in Steve's mind. Jeff Passan said the same thing, that Tarek Skubal is going to get dealt in between now and the deadline. We can talk about other teams, Steve, that could be in the mix for Tarek Skubal. But if I made you right now, pencil, not pen, we don't know what it's going to be. But if I made you guess right now, or maybe you have really strong conviction on it, who lands Tarek Skubal in between now and Monday?
Yeah, I think it's going to be the Milwaukee Brewers. I think the Dodgers are going to be in, by the way. I think I think the Dodgers will be in. But I don't think that they're going to go too far down the road to be able to get them. But I think they're going to be in on it because they're going to get Snell and Glasnow back, but you can't trust them. And if the Dodgers want them, they can put together a better package than the Brewers can. If the Dodgers wanted Mason Miller and Tarek Skubal, they've got the farm system to get both of them. Now, the Brewers have an excellent farm system too. But I think the Brewers are going to make the most aggressive play on it. The Rays are going to be into. The Braves will be in. The Phillies have called. The Cubs don't have the farm system to be able to do it. But I'm going to say the Brewers, they're promising to go all in. And so I'm going to think that they're going to get them. What Skubal, their word is on the street that his preference is Dodgers, obviously. But I'm going to give it to the Brewers, although the Dodgers will be right there.
Let's assume, and obviously I'm sure the Dodgers will do something even if they don't trade for Tarek Skubal. But let's just assume, for the purposes of this question, the Milwaukee Brewers trade for Tarek Skubal. With Tarek Skubal, and that I think that's fun, like, because it kind of feels almost like the Sabathia situation, right, in 2008. Maybe not the same thing when Milwaukee traded for Sabathia and he walked to the Yankees the next offseason. If the Milwaukee Brewers trade for Tarek Skubal, who wins the National League?
Dodgers, probably. But I think for the Brewers, their problem is that they're ranked 30th in home runs and like fourth in runs scored. But and the numbers don't really jive, right? In this era of 3 true outcomes, to be a top scoring team, you'd think you'd have to hit home runs. Now, they're great at manufacturing, but in the playoffs, when you're facing the best rotations and pitchers in the game, it's really hard to get 4 singles in an inning to put up 2 runs. It's just really hard to do that. And versus, getting a guy on and getting a bloop or an error, and then a guy hitting a home run, that's the way you're able to put up the crooked numbers. So I think there's some part of that problem for their offensive production that doesn't play all that well, but it's what they have to do over 162 games. It's just the way they play. So they need to outpitch the opposition in the playoffs. But I think at some point, the Dodgers offense would find ways to score on the Brewers and they'd be able to take them down. So I still give the Dodgers the edge in that right now.
If it's not the Brewers, Steve, is it just the Dodgers then that trade for Skubal? Because I've seen Tampa floated out there, and I think, in a wide open, watered down American League, and I'm a Yankee fan saying this, if the Rays get Tarek Skubal, just put them in the World Series right now. Maybe you disagree with that, but if it's not the Brewers, is it the Dodgers or is it another team that would trade for Skubal?
Yeah, I think it's the Dodgers or the Rays, probably, if not the Brewers. Those seem to be the consensus teams that would go all in. Now, for the Rays, it just feels like, there's a point where they're going to stop. And there's a point where the Dodgers wouldn't have to stop. Jesus Made for the Brewers is one of the top prospects in all of baseball. In fact, he's rated number 1 in some of the rankings. He would probably have to go in the deal as part of it. Luis Lara, who's up at the big league club right now, has got a great plate discipline, might have to be in the deal. Now, the question is, would they give up Kyle Harrison in a trade like that? If you're the Tigers and you get Kyle Harrison back in a deal for Skubal, now Harrison's hurt right now, but if he's able to come back, then you're not in that less a spot than you were. I mean, certainly not Skubal, but he's not bad. Or Aaron Ashby, who's got like 12 wins out of the bullpen, who I think has starter stuff, could also be a factor for them. So there's some ways that teams can go, but I think that Tampa Bay and the LA Dodgers, if not the Brewers, are the likely candidates.
I may be missing something here because I'm not as ensconced in this world, Steve, as you are. But if it's true that the Dodgers they could put out an offer that maybe blows everybody out of the water, potentially, and if Skubal's preference is to go to the Dodgers, why wouldn't the Dodgers do this? I'm sure there's a good reason, but it feels like to me like you're trying to go back to back to back for the first time since the Yankees, 98 to 2000. Why wouldn't the Dodgers do this?
Yeah, I think the only reason they might not is that, Freddie Freeman's getting older, Betts is getting older, Muncy's getting older, and, Tucker's not been great. Teoscar Hernandez getting older, and, they've got some real good upper-level offensive players that are likely going to be needed to replace the aging players here in the short term. And so it would really be, can we win it without going all in? We've already won 2, so can we win it? We've got the best record, so we certainly have a shot of doing it the way we are. But should we keep some guys to continue the long run of success and keep our business plan matched up with our baseball plan moving forward? And, if they're going to have to get payrolls down because of salary cap at some point, having young players available to them is going to be important to have to do that. So there's a number of reasons why they might not do it. But you know what? To win a 3rd championship in a row and to be a dynasty, I wouldn't be completely shocked if they did.
I thought that was a really interesting take, and I think you explained it really well, why the Dodgers think they may be able to win without him this year and keep that stockpile of prospects as some of these players age out. I also agree with the last thing you said. If I were them, I would go for 3 in a row and just become legendary and get this dynasty really rolling. Speaking of, I guess, formerly dynastic teams, the New York Yankees send my blood pressure skyrocketing on a nightly basis, especially when Aaron Boone addresses the media. We don't have to get to that for right now. But expectations, Steve, for what the Yankees might do heading into the deadline.
Yeah, well, they're all in on Mason Miller for sure. And if he's going to be moved, they'll want to be in on it. And I think that A.J. Preller's not going to trade Mason Miller for a prospect. He could do that at any time. I mean, they're 2.5 games, 2 games out of the wild card spot. I think that if he trades Mason Miller, he's going to want major league ready talent in return. And the Yankees can provide that for him. They can provide a starting pitcher. back in the deal in a Warren or a Weathers. They could provide an outfielder back in the deal in a Spencer Jones, who's from San Diego, or a Dominguez. They could also give up George Lombard Jr., who I know they would prefer not to do, but he's not Leo DeVries, who the Padres gave up, and they do have guys filling in at short, and they've got one of the better records in the American League, even though Lombard kid's going to be pretty good. They have Elmer Rodriguez at AAA, who there's a lot of people really like a lot there, but who could go to the big leagues in San Diego because they need starting pitching and they need offense. So they could put together a package that could satisfy the Padres still having a chance to win this year because it's addressing the areas of real need where they could actually replace Miller in their bullpen with Jeremiah Estrada or Adrian Morejon and be just fine. But I think that's where they go. And I think that the Yankees are going to look for offense too, understanding that they're going to get guys back, but they're not going to be back until probably sometime in September, and Judge, Stanton, and Bellinger. And so in the meantime, maybe adding to the offensive production there. I can see Dalton Varsho potentially being a guy that can play all three outfield positions. And when everybody's healthy, he might be the guy you play in center instead of Grisham because of his at-bats are better and his defense is better. But I think that Luis Ariza's name has come up in connection with the Yankees, where they would probably move Chisholm back to third. But I think that the Yankees, Brian Cashman's going to be aggressive. Plus, he needs to really address that bullpen. If not at the end, then fortifying it in front of Bednar.
Last one here, Steve, about a minute for the answer. I'm going to give you a couple teams. You tell me which one you think might make a big splash at the deadline and why. The Boston Red Sox, who traded for Curtis Mead and they lost him, gets hit by a pitch and fractures his wrist. The Boston Red Sox, the Atlanta Braves, the Philadelphia Phillies, the Chicago Cubs. Which of those teams do you think makes a splash and why in about 60 seconds?
Yeah, I think probably the Atlanta Braves. I think Alex Anthopoulos has done it before in Toronto. Traded for David Price and Troy Tulowitzki at the deadline. He's avoided having to go big at times in Atlanta, but he remembers what happened last year, and he knows you're not promised next year. And they are who they are right now. Chris Sale's window is winding down. He's at top form. They need another ace starter to go with him. So they could get in on Skubal. I don't know if they have the farm system to do it, but I think Alex is going to really address his starting pitching. I think that they're going to further fortify the bullpen. They may add another bat to it, but I think that Alex Anthopoulos and the Braves are going to try to put themselves in a position to knock off the Dodgers.
Steve, you're the best. Appreciate it. Stay caffeinated. I know you will. Good luck on I-95, and we look forward to catching up with you soon.
All right, Nick. Thanks so much.
I love him. What a great guy. Very funny. Just don't fall asleep behind the wheel. At Steve Phillips GM, MLB Network Radio, MLB Network, and TSN. And for the first time ever, he called me by my name in a radio spot. Now we are officially friends. All right. On the other side, we have a treat for everybody. A friend of mine for 2 decades is going to join the show to talk some SummerSlam this weekend from the WWE, the host of Busted Open Radio on the newly minted WWE Radio on our friends at SiriusXM. Dave LaGreca joins us next here on You Better You Bet.
Now, back to You Better You Bet with Nick Kostos, presented by BetMGM on Westwood One Sports.
You Better You Bet Thursday, Westwood One Sports, Nick Kostos and you. And joining us right now on the show, a very special guest. I mean, friend of mine for 2 decades, and that is the truth. I could not be happier and prouder for anyone's success than I am for this guy that's joining us right now. And if you're a pro wrestling fan, you absolutely know who he is. He is the host of Busted Open, which is the premier wrestling show on radio, in podcast form, in this country, and in the world. And this past week was a monumental week in the history of Busted Open Radio on SiriusXM, because this week, the channel, Pro Wrestling Nation, became WWE Radio, partnering with World Wrestling Entertainment. And I was around literally at the beginning when he and I worked together at SiriusXM. I know how much work, the blood, the sweat, and tears went into this for my friend Dave LaGreca, that now today, we can say on Thursday, July 30th, ahead of SummerSlam Weekend 2026, WWE Radio, Channel 156 on SiriusXM. And just to remind our audience, starting September 1st this year, 23 of Odyssey's biggest sports stations will be available on SiriusXM as the partnership between Odyssey and SiriusXM grows even stronger. And Dave joins me now here, weekdays 9 to noon Eastern, Busted Open Radio on WWE Radio. What's going on, buddy? Welcome to the show.
I love it, and I got to tell you this. This is amazing, this moment right here for two guys, you know, working together like you did and I, hand to hand, shoulder to shoulder with NFL radio, and never knowing about what our future was going to be on air. And now you and I making it, and now being a guest on your show. I couldn't be happier right now. I mean, this is really a moment that we really worked so hard to accomplish, and here we are. And now I'm a guest on your show. This is amazing.
It is pretty amazing. And SummerSlam's going to be amazing this weekend. And something else that's amazing, without giving away the gory details, is it fair or unfair to say that if social media existed 15 years ago, a lot of us in the media may not be employed still? Because, I mean, we partied hard on the road, man, at some of these Super Bowls for NFL radio, etc. We had some wild times, my friend.
We were rock stars, man, or at least we acted like we were rock stars, you know? And, yeah, it's social media has its good things. Social media has its bad things. Obviously, you know, social media and people on social media are going to make their judgment, and I completely understand it. It all comes from passion. You know this. Fans are passionate, but they may not know the whole story, but they act on emotion. And I think that's what makes fans fans. So it doesn't really bother me, but yeah, it's a completely different world because of social media.
So let's talk about it, my friend. SummerSlam this weekend. And for anyone out there listening or watching right now, you can listen to SummerSlam and every WWE PLE and every Raw and every SmackDown. You can listen to it in your car, on the app, on SiriusXM, WWE Radio, Channel 156. So SummerSlam will be the first PLE broadcast on WWE Radio coming up this weekend. And look, you know me, the audience knows, I'm a lifelong pro wrestling fan just like you. And I have to say, I'm pretty jazzed as we move closer for this event. Dave, I think the big matches are absolutely tremendous. The two main events on Saturday and Sunday, Hell in a Cell, Brock Lesnar, Obafemi. What is your level of excitement coming up for SummerSlam? And then we'll talk some matches.
All right, I'm really excited because first of all, it's about the journey. And, you know, people and fans like you and I argue about, was there a better way to get here? Or could they have done this? Could they have done that? But once you get to the event and you look at the matches and look at like what we're going to see on paper, this is going to be a huge SummerSlam in Minnesota. And Minnesota has a long tradition when it comes to professional wrestling. But if you look at the marquee matchups that we're going to see on both Saturday and Sunday, Nick, I'm very excited about what we're going to see across this weekend at SummerSlam.
What are the expectations for the final, I'm assuming the final match of the trilogy, maybe there will be more, with Brock Lesnar and Obafemi, Hell in a Cell in Brock Lesnar's hometown? My thought is Obafemi's going to win, Obafemi goes over, but maybe there's a curveball going to get thrown our way. Your expectations for this, a highly anticipated match?
Well, I'll tell you this. Earlier today on Busted Open, I got to speak to Triple H. And Triple H was
That's a nice little humble brag there. I like how he's
listening. Hey, listen, man, WWE
cool.
Radio.
Yeah,
Me and him are are tight. We're like best friends now.
I love it.
Like he's going to have to listen to me every single morning when he's driving to Stamford, Connecticut, and hear my rants. And by the way, Nick, just so you know that I'm not a fraud, I brought up WrestleMania 31 to Triple H, and I brought up about why would you have the NWO helping Sting at WrestleMania 31? But I digress.
Also, Sting should have gone over, and Sting should have had a match against The Undertaker, and WWE absolutely blew that, but that's a story for another time.
Yeah, we gotta focus on what's gonna happen this week. So we're talking Obafemi and Brock Lesnar, and Triple H was saying that Brock Lesnar understands greatness, and Brock Lesnar has actually become a mentor. So he sat down with Oba. Like there's a great respect, because I think Brock Lesnar knows that Obafemi is the future for the WWE. Nick, Obafemi is going to be your guy for the next 10 to 15 years in the WWE. And that starts this weekend at SummerSlam. This is a very important matchup. We thought Brock Lesnar was retired at WrestleMania, but that was just the first chapter of this trilogy.
Only the marks thought that, Dave. I knew that Brock was not retired. Only were you? Did you get caught? Did you mark out? Did you think he had actually retired?
I actually thought that by the time he got to the top of the entrance ramp, that something was going to happen, but we had to wait a little bit longer. But I was convinced, like you, that this was not the end. Why would it be the end? Why would it be the end?
Of course.
But now you have the rubber match. This needs to be a statement by Obafemi. We all know about Brock Lesnar. We know about the greatness of Brock Lesnar. But this may be the perfect time for Brock Lesnar to put over somebody like Obafemi in Minnesota, in his home for Brock. But this needs to be a statement by Obafemi, and I think it will be. I think we're going to see they had him win. They had him beat Brock Lesnar at WrestleMania. They had him win King of the Ring. I would be shocked if he's not winning the Royal Rumble and then being in a main event for a championship come WrestleMania next year. This is all part of the story of getting Obafemi to the next level.
I love it. And he's tremendous, and his walk to the ring and the music, and he's so over, and feels like everyone loves Obafemi, and I expect Obafemi, Dave, to win as well against Brock Lesnar this weekend. Go ahead.
And I'm going to say this, like you just mentioned it, that Obafemi is over. I think he's the most over wrestler in the WWE right now. I really do. The only person that comes close to me is Roman Reigns. But I think that Obafemi right now in this moment is the most over wrestler in the WWE.
Like 100% approval rating. Because like Roman draws a reaction. I love Roman. I'll never boo Roman. But like some people will boo Roman, some cheer him. Who is booing Obafemi? Like, actually, Nobody. Think about this. In like 2026 in America, where everybody hates everything, everybody loves Obafemi. And how rare that is, right? In pro wrestling or just in life.
There's two wrestlers that I got to give credit to right now that's tough to do in 2026. Obafemi to be over where everybody loves Obafemi, and Gunther where everybody hates Gunther. Nobody likes Gunther. Everybody hates him. And it's almost impossible to be a true heel in 2026. Gunther has been able to do it. So those are the two guys that I think are the most over in completely different directions, Obafemi and Gunther.
I want to give you an opinion on Gunther quickly that I think a lot of wrestling fans will agree with here. Now, the match against Nick Aldis this weekend, I expect to be good. They're both, I mean, of course the match is going to be good. It just feels like, you know, when Gunther retires John Cena, and I love that, and all the people that are like, I can't believe John Cena tapped. Yeah, like of course he did. That's what happens, everybody. I expected Gunther to face Brock Lesnar this weekend. That was my thought at WrestleMania. It's going to be Gunther, Brock Lesnar. Of course, that's not what happened. And there are some, and I have to admit, Dave, that I'm not 100% in this camp, but I'm more in that camp than the other way. It kind of feels like, I don't want to say WWE's dropped the ball with Gunther, but it feels like there's been a missed opportunity here after he retired John Cena, where it kind of feels like maybe this should have been a little hotter for Gunther. Anything to be said for that?
I completely understand where you're coming from and fans thinking that way. I completely understand it. But I think the reason they did it was because of Obafemi. I don't think they thought Obafemi was going to get as over on the main roster as quickly as he did than what we've seen happen. I think you're right. I think I would have to think that their plan for SummerSlam this year was Gunther and Brock Lesnar. But because of Obafemi, they went and they pivoted in a completely different direction. And I think it was more important, Nick, for them to act on Obafemi now than to wait. Gunther's not going anywhere. They can easily reheat Gunther, no problem. But you had to capitalize on Obafemi, and they have. And that's why we have the situation that we have at SummerSlam.
I got to be honest with you, man. I actually agree with what you just said. I think you actually made a lot of sense there with what you said. And just last thing on Gunther here, just as wrestling fans, I'm curious if you agree with me on this opinion, because most wrestling fans disagree with me. I think this is pro wrestling 101 here, right? So Gunther retires John Cena. Gunther retires AJ Styles. There is going to be, I think at some point, because I think Triple H takes some inspiration from New Japan, from Japanese booking, right? Where there's going to be a retirement match, and everyone's going to expect Gunther's going to win, and he's going to lose. I think that's going to happen at some point in the next year and a half, 2 years. You lend any credence to that Gunther could actually lose a retirement match? That would be like the ultimate curveball, I think, to the audience.
Yeah, especially if the person that you think is going to retire doesn't retire. Kind of going back to Brock Lesnar at WrestleMania. I totally agree with you. I think you have some freedom with Gunther. Listen, I thought Gunther was going to beat Cody and be your champion, and we'd be looking at Gunther being a champion. But here we are in a world where CM Punk is your champion and Roman Reigns is your champion. Like, a lot of people like to think that the WWE plays it safe and plays it in a predictable way. I think this past 6 months in the WWE has been anything but predictable. I think it's been unpredictable. So I think that the WWE likes that, and I totally go by what you're saying with Gunther. I totally agree that there's going to be a circumstance where you just assume something is going to happen and it's going to go in a complete opposite direction.
And that's the magic and the Shakespeare of pro wrestling when that happens. Yeah. When you think when you get fooled and you become a kid in those moments, that's when, for me, when pro wrestling reaches and becomes the ultimate art form. Our guest here on You Better You Bet is Dave LaGreca, the host of Busted Open Radio on the newly minted WWE Radio on Sirius XM, Channel 156. Odyssey and SiriusXM entering into an agreement starting September 1st. 23 of Odyssey's biggest sports stations will now also be heard on satellite radio for our friends at SiriusXM. You know, Dave, even the biggest WWE haters or people that love to criticize the product, I don't know what they can possibly say to these two main events on Saturday night and Sunday night. They're both spectacular. Both title matches. CM Punk, Cody Rhodes Saturday night, Roman Reigns, Seth Rollins, and all the history there on Sunday night. Let's start with Punk Cody on Saturday and your expectations for that match.
I think it's a fantasy matchup. I'm a huge Cody Rhodes fan, but I love Punk as well. It's one of those matches where I think the crowd is going to be split in Minnesota. I think
you
it's
do.
Yes, I think it's.
I don't think so.
50-50.
I don't think so.
You think it's going to be mostly Punk fans?
I think it's going to be like 90. I think that Cody Rhodes will be playing the role of John Cena from back in Cena's heyday here, and will be like 95% Punk.
And listen, Cody has had to deal with that. Cody has had to deal with like what he says. I'm the visiting team. Though I think
worked out well for Cena. Like worked out well for John Cena, right?
Like, I mean, you're talking. They call him the GOAT. They call him the greatest of all time. For a reason. I don't, but people do. Not people I would want to share a beer with, but people do say he's the greatest of all time. Ric Flair's the greatest of all time. But anyway.
I'll go with Shawn Michaels, but we can agree to disagree. That's okay.
Listen, I totally get it. That's an argument for another show. But
Fair.
I think this is a fantasy matchup. I love the fact that Cody and Punk, their stories have run very parallel from one another. Cody left, but stayed in wrestling. Punk left and was so disillusioned and angry, he was gone from wrestling for over a decade. But they both left the WWE to bet on themselves, but now here they are back. So their stories are similar, but they couldn't be more different. Punk is a jean and t-shirt guy, where Cody's is a suit and tie guy. I like that. I love that aspect of it. And I think it's going to play out really well on Saturday for SummerSlam night number 1 in the main event. I think it's going to be a great match, but I also think it's just the beginning of the story. I think they're just going to scratch the surface on Saturday between these two.
Give this to me, and because I want to talk Reigns Rollins here in the time we have remaining, but just like in 30 seconds, if that's true, right? That this, and I hope it is, because they're both spectacular performers. It's the beginning of a long story with CM Punk and Cody Rhodes. Maybe you disagree with this, but I think it stands to reason that one of the guys should probably turn heel, if that's the case, because they're both baby faces. Maybe Punk's a little bit of a tweener, but way more of a baby face. Cody Rhodes is the ultimate white meat baby face in the John Cena vein. Does one of these guys need to turn heel, Dave? And do you think it potentially happens on Saturday night in about 30 seconds?
I think something has to happen with Cody soon when it comes to him. I think he's a natural heel. I don't think
man.
But I don't think Saturday's the right time for it to happen. It's almost there, but it's not quite there. But it could happen between him and Punk. I just don't think it's going to happen on Saturday.
I can't wait to watch it and listen to it coming up on WWE Radio Channel 156 on Saturday and Sunday, SummerSlam. And with that, oh man, if you're a wrestling fan like I am, like Dave is, this Roman Reigns Seth Rollins rivalry, this has been going on for a decade with these two. And Reigns, it feels like, with the exception of WrestleMania 31 and the cash-in in the main event, it feels like Reigns generally gets the better of Seth Rollins, calls him number two. It's been a very entertaining exchange of promos between them on Monday Night Raw. What about Reigns and Rollins Sunday night? Who wins? How do you expect the match to go down, Dave?
Seth Rollins has to win. I think this is a must-win for Seth Rollins.
Clean?
On Sunday. I think he needs it. I think he needs that because even though Seth has gotten the better of Roman in the ring, Roman Reigns is a bigger star than Seth Rollins. Roman Reigns is on a different level than Seth Rollins. When I'm talking about perception, being a star, being that guy, I think this is a must-win for Seth Rollins on Sunday. I don't know how you react and what you say on Monday Night Raw after it's all said and done, if Seth Rollins loses this match to Roman Reigns on Sunday. It's a must-win for Seth.
What if Roman wins him some sort of nefarious? So if Reigns wins, and I think he's going to, the thought would be he doesn't go over clean, and there's something that Rollins can point to and say, I got screwed out of it can't be clean, and Rollins can't come back from that.
I think even if he gets help from the bloodline, Roman, Seth should know something like that is going to go down. He even said it in the ring in their promo this past Monday. Then that's on him. If there's an outside interference, it's on Seth Rollins. I'm telling you right now, Seth Rollins needs this victory on Sunday.
Final question. We have about 2 minutes here. Non-SummerSlam related. I actually don't know your answer to this question. What is Dave LaGreca's favorite WWE match of all time and why?
It's a match that you and I watched together. It's a different type of question. My all-time favorite match is the Terry Funk Ric Flair I Quit match. But if you're asking me specifically WWE, it's WrestleMania 25. It's Undertaker and Shawn Michaels.
It has to be the answer. It's almost like Bret Austin WrestleMania. Honestly, I'll give you a hot take. I said it after it happened. Main event, because Michaels Taker wasn't the main event of WrestleMania 25. The best wrestling match, pure wrestling match, ever in a WrestleMania main event was Reigns against Punk this year. What about that?
Wow, woo! I'll say this, it's top 5.
In a main, because like Bret Austin wasn't the main event.
Nope.
In a main event.
If you're going to say main event best wrestled, I think I would agree with you. I would agree with you. Yes, it's fantastic. It's underrated because wrestling moves so fast, Nick, that people don't have time to digest anything anymore. I think it's criminally underrated. It saved this past WrestleMania. Saved it.
I'm so happy for you. I'm so happy for the success of Busted Open Radio. WWE Radio, Busted Open is a part of it. Weekdays, 9 a.m. to noon Eastern, Channel 156. And if you would like to listen to SummerSlam or Raw or SmackDown, you can do so now on SiriusXM, WWE Radio, Channel 156. Dave, next time we have you on the show, we need to talk about the phone conversation you and I had after my Giants knocked out your Cowboys of the 2007 divisional round of the playoffs en route to the Giants winning Super Bowl 42. That'll be a conversation for another time.
It broke me.
Sorry.
But thank you, Nick. Dude, Nick, seriously, congratulations on all your success, man. I love you, and I love what you've been able to accomplish.
Our friend Dave LaGreca joining us here on You Better You Bet. We will definitely have Dave back on the show to talk more WWE. The show rolls on right after this.
Now, back to You Better You Bet with Nick Kostos, presented by BetMGM on Westwood One Sports.
I really enjoyed our conversation with friend of the show, Dave LaGreca. Can't wait for SummerSlam this weekend. Think it's actually going to be really awesome. You know what else is awesome? Our friends at BetMGM. Did your home run bet come up short? Thanks to today's MLB No Sweat Home Run Token, you don't have to worry if your bet didn't clear the fences. Just activate your token when you bet on any player to hit a home run, and if that player fails to go yard, you'll get your stake back in bonus bets. Download the BetMGM app today, and please gamble responsibly. All right, we have some news as it concerns Tampa Bay Buccaneers quarterback Baker Mayfield. Now, we told you yesterday, I believe, that Baker and the team were not going to reach agreement on a contract extension. Baker is about to play out the final year of a 3-year, $100 million contract. So that news came down. Like, no new deal this season, that Baker would play out this season on the final year of his contract. Baker is addressing the media literally like right now in Tampa. Videos are starting to circulate on social media. Here are some quotes from Baker Mayfield, again, who is actually speaking at this moment right now. Our pal Greg Allman, who covers the NFL for Fox Sports. Baker Mayfield says it's, quote, very disappointing to not have a new contract. He feels, quote, disrespected, quote, undervalued, and felt that he had, quote, earned a new contract. Jeremy Fowler from ESPN, says Baker Mayfield confirmed that he has addressed the team. Baker told the team that this will not be a distraction. He plans to have a huge year and believes he's in great shape. And remember, Baker was, he's always been a streaky quarterback. He was really streaky last year, but also wasn't healthy for a large swath of the season. Another Baker Mayfield quote, this one per Fowler. If you've waited this long to pay your franchise quarterback, it's only going to get worse. I'm going to have a big year. So this is classic Baker Mayfield piss and vinegar. And I mean that in a complimentary way. Baker is a guy who, it's ridiculous to say this about Heisman Trophy winner, first overall pick of the NFL draft. He has a gigantic chip on his shoulder. And just think back to, when the Bucs played the Jets last year, going up against Steve Wilkes, who was the coach of Carolina when the Panthers cut Baker Mayfield. He couldn't wait to beat Steve Wilkes. Like, he's the type of guy that holds a grudge. So if there were going to be any quarterback who was going to say in a situation like this, I'm going to have a huge year this year, and you were going to believe him and not let it be a distraction, I think Baker Mayfield would be that guy. Because he has that profile, right? He's done it in the past. He is someone that's motivated by slights. The problem, though, is that it's not just confined to Baker Mayfield. So let's say that the season's going on and Baker's having a good year, or Baker's having a bad, whatever it is. It's not just going to be Baker that has to answer questions about this. It's going to be the rest of the team. Now, perhaps the most famous and successful example of something like this was Joe Flacco prior to Super Bowl 43, when the Ravens beat the 49ers in 2012. When Flacco played out the final year of his contract, won the Super Bowl, and then got the biggest deal in the history of the National Football League afterwards, right? He bet on himself and he won. That Ravens team was coming off an appearance in the AFC Championship game where I felt like Flacco outplayed Tom Brady in that game. And remember, that was the Lee Evans drop and the Billy Cundiff miss. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers missed the playoffs last year and finished under 500. So I don't think we're headed towards a scenario where Baker's riding off into the sunset winning a championship, right? I think what's more likely is the Bucs struggle this year. Vita Vea is unhappy as well. I think you can make the case they're the most talented team in the NFC South. I'm not a huge Todd Bowles guy. I think this is probably his last year in Tampa. How is this not going to become a distraction? If the Bucs are a game under 500 in November, how does the conversation not turn to Baker Mayfield's future? And other Emeka Egbuka's getting asked about it. And Bucky Irving's getting asked about it. And Jalen McMillan. And Chris Godwin. And Todd Bowles. And Vita Vea if he's still there. And the defense. I don't like the brew right now in Tampa Bay. I don't like it. One of the reasons why I won't be picking the Bucs to win the NFC South. Final hour, Power Hour, coming up on the other side. We'll be joined by Dave Wanstead, former NFL head coach. Looking forward to that. Baseball, football, college football next.
Now, back to You Better You Bet with Nick Kostos, presented by BetMGM on Westwood One Sports.
Bring it up, Laura. Final hour. Power hour. You Better You Bet on Westwood One Sports. Nick Kostos, our tremendous crew, and you. The Power Hour and every hour here on You Better You Bet, brought to you by BetMGM. Make it legendary by downloading the BetMGM app and visiting BetMGM.com. Friend of the show, former NFL and college football head coach, Big Ten Network analyst, the great Dave Wanstead will join us later this hour to talk all things Big Ten. Media Days going on right now in Chicago. Look forward to Dave Wanstead joining the show. Thanks to Dave LaGreca for joining us last hour to help preview SummerSlam coming up this weekend. Still have a number of topics to hit. Very busy time on the sports calendar. Baseball trade deadline coming up on Monday. NFL training camps in full swing. It is absolutely awesome. I did want to hit one non-football, non-baseball story here. And we told you about another one in the first hour. It looks like ESPN is closing in on a deal with LeBron James to produce a Last Dance-style documentary. The implication being there that this could be LeBron's final season. He signed a 2-year deal in Philly. I have no idea. I'll tell you what, can't wait to watch it, if that's the case. Would be awesome, especially if Jaylen Brown's a character, Embiid's hysterical. Like, that would be a lot of fun. I hope it happens. And even if you are a huge LeBron James hater, and I know a lot of people don't like him for whatever the reason, you're welcome to your opinions. I don't feel that way, but you're welcome to. Even if you hate LeBron, I hope that you would be excited about it. Like, no one hates Michael Jordan. I don't hate him personally, although I did when I was a kid. No one dislikes Michael Jordan more than me. As a Knicks fan growing up in the late 80s and 90s, right? Where Michael Jordan ruined months of my childhood by beating my favorite team. I still couldn't wait to watch The Last Dance. Now, that's partially because there was nothing else to watch because the world shut down. But I was still pretty excited to watch it. And if you ask me questions about my feelings on that time period, I will invoke my constitutional right, the Fifth Amendment, and I will not be answering your questions. So I'm pumped for a LeBron James-style Last Dance documentary if and when we get there. The other piece of NBA news that we need to discuss today, and this continues to be the theater of the absurd. It is just, I don't even know what to say about it anymore. And I get paid to talk about sports. And I'm finished with this. I'm finished with it. Per Baxter Holmes of ESPN, the NBA's, I almost like having to say this out loud. This is one of those situations where, like, you don't want to say something in life. Forget about sports. Forget about radio. In real life. You don't want to say something out loud because when you say it out loud, like, it makes it real. Now it's real when you say it, even if you know it's real. Per Baxter Holmes of ESPN, the NBA's investigation into Kawhi Leonard and the Clippers and aspiration could extend into 2027. To answer your question, yes, this NBA season starts in 2026. And yes, the Kawhi Leonard trade from the Clippers to the Raptors, a seismic deal for both franchises that absolutely influenced the way both franchises went about their summer, including what the Clippers did in the NBA draft, taking Keaton Wagler with the 5th overall pick. I have no idea what's happening with this trade. I tried to read as much as I could. My guess is it's going to go through, but I don't know that for a fact. I don't know what's going to happen here. Is it possible Kawhi is going to get sent back to the Clippers? Maybe. And then the Clippers get hurt and the Raptors get hurt. 2027, for something we've known about already for a year. And there are people that will speculate as to why this is the case, right? It's because, I think Dan Lebitard said, Steve Ballmer's got all this money, owners don't want to mess with him, the league doesn't want to mess with him. I have no idea. And candidly, I don't care. And I am not trying to downplay Pablo Torre won a Pulitzer Prize. Pablo Torre finds out. I'm sure it's a great show. It's not my bag. I'm not saying that other people can't like it or that there's not value in the work. I just don't care. I don't care. I'm the type of sports fan. It doesn't mean I'm better or worse than you. I would argue better. But I'm the type of sports fan that likes games. I like to watch games. I like to talk about games. I like to talk about trades and free agency. I like to talk about the fun stuff with sports. The things that make me excited and make me feel like a little boy when I watch sports. That make me feel like a kid. That make sports great. And it doesn't mean that people shouldn't be interested in Kyle Shanahan and the police officers in the Bay Area. You can be. That's great. Fine. Go for it. Or you can't be interested in Kawhi Leonard getting paid under the table and maybe the Clippers are circumventing the cap. Whatever. Also, they never won anything. Who cares? I get it. You can be interested in that. You can consume content about it. And that content can be great. I just don't care. What I want to know is Kawhi Leonard playing for the Raptors this year? Seems like a pretty big deal, right? For a Raptors team that pushed the Cavs to 7 in the first round, despite Emmanuel Quickley not being healthy for that series. Pretty good performance by Toronto, and a good season by the Raptors. Scotty Barnes looks like he's made the leap. And then you add Kawhi Leonard? Now, I don't know if the Raptors are good enough to win the East with Kawhi. I don't think they are. I'd have them, when we did the trust rankings, they were 5th or 6th for me earlier this week. Definitely a playoff team in the East. You don't want to play a Kawhi Leonard-led team in the playoffs, assuming he's healthy. And for the Clippers, they're about to embark on a rebuild here. And this whole thing's getting held up potentially because the NBA can't figure out what the hell it's doing here. And Pablo Torre released a new episode last night when he's talking. I didn't listen to it. I'm just... From what I read, that Kawhi, basically, there was another, I'll call it scheme for lack of a better word. I might not be using the right word. But Kawhi, they could have been getting funneled money from somewhere else. Okay, fine. I'm sure it happened or it didn't. I don't care. Just like NBA, can we figure this out? Some of us love thinking about what's to come. Some of us love sports. Some of us love projecting what the Eastern Conference and the Western Conference is going to look like next year in the NBA. And we're not going to be able to do that in full and in totality until we know if this trade goes through. It's July 30th. We don't know if Kawhi's going to be on the Raptors yet. The season starts in a couple months. We haven't figured that it might stretch into January. Here's what I want. Finality. Make a decision. Is he going back to the Clippers and getting suspended, or is he going to Toronto? What's happening? Can you make a decision? What are we investigating here? 9/11? Benghazi? Who shot JFK? What happened at Roswell? How hard is this to investigate? Did Kawhi Leonard get paid under the table? How hard is this to investigate? We can't get a damn answer to this question. I don't know, as a Knicks fan, if Kawhi Leonard's going to be on one of the Raptors next year. You're a Clippers fan? Are there Clippers fans? Sorry to the Clippers fans out there. You're a Clippers fan and you don't know if Kawhi's going to be on this team next year with Keaton Wagler and Darius Garland and this new look Clippers team? You don't know that? It's not frustrating to anybody? Frustrates me. Frustrates me as a sports fan. I love sports. I want to think about it. I want to know what it's going to be. And we don't. Because this clown investigation is still going on. 2027. What are we talking about here? We're going to find out, if COVID was actually, released from a lab, from bats in a wet market in Wuhan, before we find out if Kawhi Leonard was getting paid under the table. Do you understand how ridiculous this is? I don't blame Pablo Torre. He's doing the work that he thinks is appropriate and is valuable. This is the NBA's fault. This is on Adam Silver. Figure it out. Like, we're not trying to solve complex mathematical equations here. We're not trying to cure disease or make sure that AI doesn't kill all of us like Terminator 2 Judgment Day. That's not what it is. Is Kawhi Leonard getting paid illegally or not? And what's the punishment? Figure it out. You bet on this Thursday. Nick Kostos and you on Westwood One Sports. This stuff is very aggravating, is very annoying. All right. Couple NFL topics that we have not yet hit, both emanating from the state of Ohio. Let's start with the Cincinnati Bengals. And mentioned that yesterday, Wednesday, was kind of an injury-riddled day at NFL training camps. We have not yet talked about the Bengals, and we don't have official word yet, but there is video circulating of this injury. And if you are of the squeamish variety, I would recommend not watching it. It's not like a shattered leg where like bone is sticking out. But, based on my untrained eye, and it is untrained, this is a nasty injury for Shamar Stewart, who was last year's first-round pick, defensive line pass rusher out of Texas A&M by the Cincinnati Bengals. My guess is if he's not out for the year, he's going to be out for a while. And that is not like reckless speculation by me. Watch the video and tell me what you think. Like, does not look good. I hope he's fine. My sense is he's not. So Shamar Stewart last year, I don't want to say predictably was not good, but the whole thing with Shamar Stewart and what the Bengals were banking on this year in year two, and it's an easier thing to bank on in year two because there's experience in year one. Shamar Stewart is a very toolsy player, which is a nice way of saying he's a great athlete but zero production. And the idea was, he will, as he continues to, build out, his body gets built out and filled out, and he learns the intricacies of the NFL game, that he's going to be a monster because he has all the physical tools. Didn't happen last year. Could have happened this year. Now it seems like they won't have the opportunity for that to happen. And it absolutely is a big deal for the Cincinnati Bengals defense and for the Cincinnati Bengals pass rush. Because look, the Bengals defensive line is actually not bad. Jonathan Allen and Dexter Lawrence in the middle of it. And Lawrence is at a different level than Allen, but Allen's been a good player in his NFL career since coming out of Alabama. So Allen and Dexter Lawrence signed Boye Mafe away from the Seattle Seahawks. Boye Mafe is a good pass rusher. You're banking on Cassius Howell, the rookie, giving you something. Miles Murphy feels like he's a bust. 2023 second-round pick. With Shamar Stewart, if you wanted to make the case for him hitting an upside potential, right? Double-digit sacks. You could have made that case. I don't know if I would have agreed with you, but he certainly had the ability to make it happen. Now he's not going to have that opportunity. And I think it underscores for me a problem that I have with the Cincinnati Bengals that I talked about earlier this week, where you really have got to tell yourself a story here. What you need is for Dexter Lawrence to not just stuff the run, but you need him to rush the passer in a way that he hasn't done in a little bit for the Giants. And maybe he got paid and change of scenery and he's pissed at the Giants and maybe that'll unlock him. We'll see. You're going to need Boye Mafe to have his best season rushing the passer. You're going to need Miles Murphy to do something he hasn't done yet in his NFL career. You're going to need Cassius Howell, who's kind of like a version of Shamar Stewart, right, to do something this year rushing the passer. You are going to need both of their young linebackers from last year, Demetrius Knight and Barrett Carter, who were both brutal last year. Not impossible that they could get better, but you need both to get better. And look, I like this secondary. I like Dax Hill. I like DJ Turner, the corners. Jordan Battle is a decent safety. They have Kyle Duggar for depth. Brian Cook, I think, is excellent coming over from the Kansas City Chiefs. I like that a lot. I like it a lot for Cincinnati in the secondary. But if you can't get a pass rush, it's not going to matter. If your linebackers can't tackle at the second level, I don't know if it's going to matter. I think the offense is going to be great. Burrow's going to be awesome. Chase will be awesome. Higgins will be awesome. They're all great players. But I got issues with Zach Taylor. I got issues with Al Golden, the returning defensive coordinator. And I think losing Shamar Stewart takes away an upside piece, potentially, from the Cincinnati Bengals defense. Let's stay in the state of Ohio and go over to Cleveland, where this quarterback competition between Deshaun Watson and Shadur Sanders is not going great. Now, I told you all offseason, I felt like Deshaun Watson should get a crack to start in his final with Todd Monken because I think Watson's skill set actually fits what Monken wants to do. And I have said this, and I am not the only one, that it felt like the Cleveland Browns were basically rigging the quarterback competition for Deshaun Watson. Mary Kay Cabot, who's covered the Browns forever locally in Cleveland, didn't say that verbatim, but basically like I'm paraphrasing, they want Deshaun Watson to be the quarterback. Final year of maybe the worst contract in the history of the league. Let's see how it goes with Todd Monken. Watson has been so bad already at training camp that there's already speculation that Shedeur might just organically win the job. It's early. Who knows what's going to happen? But that's how bad it's been. The Browns' offense, because of this, with Watson, Sanders, Dylan Gabriel's not going to play. It's not going to be very good this year. It's almost impossible, right? And I think Todd Monken's got a chance to be a good head coach. I certainly love his offensive acumen. So I think it's interesting, given the fact that the Browns almost certainly are going to be bad this year. Almost certainly. You bet on this Thursday, Nick Kostos and you, Westwood One Sports. I think it's interesting that the Browns, after trading Myles Garrett, which I thought was the right thing to do, and I said it before they traded him, that they have now extended 2 players in the secondary in the last few days. Corner Denzel Ward, who for the second time in his career is the highest paid defensive back in football, and yesterday safety Grant Delpit, 3 years, $48 million. So this is like a Brian Windhorst deal, right? Why would they do that? Why would they extend Denzel Ward instead of trade him, right? If the whole thing is, let's get our quarterback in next year's draft and supercharge it from there. My sense is, and I think this defense has a chance to be pretty good this year with Cleveland. Even with Jim Schwartz gone, Mike Rutenberg's now going to be calling the defense for the Browns. They've got good players, right? Like Myles Garrett's gone. Jared Verse is there. And Verse is not Myles Garrett, but he's not a slouch. He's a good pass rusher. Das Wunderkind, Alex Wright, a.k.a. Alex Veit. Mason Graham, top 5 overall pick a couple years ago. Malik Collins. Carson Schweschinger, the reigning defensive rookie of the year. The secondary's good. And remember, they took Spencer Fano in the draft to anchor the offensive line. That line still needs work, and that will happen next offseason, I'm sure. Drafted a couple receivers early. Casey Concepcion round 1, Denzel Boston round 2. Quinshon Judkins looks to be at full health here, plus they have Dylan Sampson. Harold Fannon's been cleared for work. Fannin, who's awesome last year as a mid-round rookie tight end. You can make the case, right? I'm going to use, and this is an extreme example. Let's say Baker Mayfield, and even that's not a great example because he was in Cleveland once already, but a Baker Mayfield-esque quarterback. If you put Baker Mayfield on this Browns team, how many games do you think they would win? Like, would they be in the mix for a wild card spot in the AFC? I'm not suggesting they'd go 10-7, but they wouldn't be the laughing stock of the league. Wouldn't be in line potentially the first overall pick in next year's NFL draft. So I don't know what the Browns are thinking. I don't talk to Andrew Berry or Todd Monken, although it would be cool. Maybe we could get them on the show. My sense is with the Browns that they are building this roster up right now to drop a rookie quarterback in next year and be ready to go. Be ready to go doesn't have to mean they're winning the AFC North and in the Super Bowl mix. But I think they can be competitive as soon as next year with the right quarterback, because the rest of the infrastructure is pretty good. Offensive line's got to improve, for sure. And obviously you need to hit on these young receivers, and we don't know if that's the case with Concepcion in Boston. But if they look good, like they're not that far off. They really aren't. And the pieces are in place on defense that if you have a nice quarterback, good quarterback on the roster next year, a rookie quarterback with promise, absolutely reason for excitement. And I do understand and respect and appreciate that there is a Shedeur Sanders hive out there, people that believe in Shedeur. Mel Kiper Jr., I think the captain of that particular boat. Maybe you're all right. Maybe you are all correct. And Shedeur is going to be good this year. And if that's the case, the Browns will be interesting. I don't think that's the case. And I've lost faith in Deshaun Watson. And Dylan Gabriel's a backup quarterback. And the Browns will probably be bad this season. But the arrow could be pointing up in 2027 and beyond. We'll take a break. On the other side, another disaster for the New York Yankees. what the hell's going on in the Bronx with Aaron Boone and company, and some thoughts on the Big Ten and potential sleepers this year in college football here on a Thursday.
Behind in the count, 2-0 to Benintendi. Here's pitch. Throw down to third. Oh, no, it gets past. McMahon into left field. Tying run at 5. That was so unnecessary. Trying to pick a guy off at third in the 11th inning with 2 outs. That was ill-advised, and that is the understatement of the month.
Wow.
That was not necessary.
Now, back to You Better You Bet with Nick Kostos, presented by BetMGM on Westwood One Sports.
This segment on You Better You Bet sponsored by Progressive Commercial Insurance, protecting your business vehicles 24/7. See if you can save at progressivecommercial.com, progressivecommercial.com. That's the voice of Dave Sims and Susan Waldman in the New York Yankees radio network on WFAN, the Odyssey sports station in New York, as the Yankees, much to my chagrin, as someone who bet them -1.5 last night against the White Sox, 4-0 lead for most of the game, end up losing 6-5 in extra innings. So you could hear the incredulity and the annoyance and kind of like the anger, and I get it, in Dave Sims' voice as he is calling that action. And my sense is, I actually do know Dave Sims a little bit from back in the day. I don't think Dave is pissed because the Yankees are losing. Like, I don't know, it's baseball. Like, the best teams lose 60-plus games a season, right? You get the sense that he's annoyed because what he just watched made no sense. I think once you acquire in life or possess a certain level of intelligence, really stupid things make you angry. So this was a really stupid thing perpetrated by backup Yankees catcher Ali Sanchez. And, Dave Sims said it. There's no reason for him to throw that ball with 2 outs in the 11th inning to try and pick a runner off third. Ryan McMahon doesn't get it. It's a bad throw. Runner scores to tie the game. The Yankees go on to lose 6-5. Now, the thing about this play that you don't get in that call, and you have to watch it to see, even if the throw had been perfect, I don't think it would have mattered. I don't think the runner would have been picked off, even if the throw had been perfect. So if that's true, what the hell's the point of this? If you'll recall, and I know that a lot of you listen and watch every day because I get messages from people I've never heard of on Instagram and Twitter that people like, well, I love that you said this on the show. So I appreciate everyone that's tuned in every day. So you will remember that a couple days ago, it reaches the point where I can't handle it anymore with Aaron Boone. Like, I just can't do it. It's been the same thing every single year for almost a decade now, where he's George Orwell, 1984, reject the evidence of your eyes and ears. Aaron Boone is absolutely the type of guy where if you called him up in front of, American senators and asked him about, do you think that Ali Sanchez should have made this throw? He'd plead the fifth. Not interested in answering questions truthfully. So let's hear from New York Yankees manager Aaron Boone after last night's game on this Ali Sanchez disaster. And you heard the way Dave Sims and Susan Waldman called it on WFAN in New York. Take a listen.
It's playing catch. So we're big leaguers and we're not going to not do things. Obviously an option's hold it. But, it comes down to, just playing. We got to play catch better there.
He actually, and I feel the need to say this every time I do this. By all accounts, I know people that know him personally. I don't know him personally. But by all accounts, people that I know, like, and respect, they all say that Aaron Boone is a great guy. And he does, he comes across as a really nice guy, right? So this is not that he's a bad human being. I can't with this guy anymore. He actually, physically, cannot bring himself to tell the truth. He can't do it. And it's been defended at points over the years in his time as managing the Yankees as he's protecting his players. He knows you would hope that he knows that Sanchez screwed up, right? But he's not going to say it because he's not going to bury his player because the player's already going to get buried. That's what the defenders will say. Just at some point, don't you have to tell the truth? Don't you have to just, we all saw it happen, you don't have to defend it. You don't have to say it's just playing catch. No, it's not. It's not. We saw it. That's not what it is. Stop lying to me. Stop pissing on my leg and telling me it's raining. Tell me the truth. The truth doesn't have to be, this player sucks, we're DFAing him, he's no good. It doesn't have to be that. But why can't you say, yeah, he doesn't have to kill the player, but why can't you just say, yeah, not the best decision there, wishes he could have that one back, need to hold the ball in that situation. Why can't you do that? No, instead it's a full-throated defense. Always. Always. 100% of the time. Can never be honest, can never criticize, everything's sanitized. It's okay, no worries, no big deal. Here's your participation trophy. It's no big deal that you play for the 27-time world champion New York Yankees in the biggest market in America and a passionate fan base with the nation watching and everyone cares. Yeah, no big deal. All good. You just get to go out there and screw up, and I'm going to give you an attaboy, pat you on the ass, and tell you did a great job. Like, this is not Little League. This has been going on for almost a decade. A decade. And every year that I do this on the show, every year, I think to myself, I can't believe we're still talking about this. And here we are again. Why would it ever be anything different? This is why I've been telling you. This is why the New York Yankees will never win another World Series as long as Brian Cashman and Aaron Boone are both in charge. Reject the evidence of your eyes and ears and listen to what I tell you about your favorite baseball team. What a joke. What a joke. You better you bet on this Thursday. Nick Kostos and you, Westwood One Sports. Dave Wanstedt is going to join us on the other side of the Big Ten Network, former NFL and college football coach. Just want to hit you with a couple quick thoughts I have on the Big Ten once we get past the top three of Ohio State, Oregon, and Indiana. A couple teams that I find interesting this year in the Big Ten. USC, win total of 8.5 at BetMGM. We know this offense is going to smash this year. Jaden Mayava, I don't think he'll win the Heisman. I don't think they'll win enough games, but one of the favorites to win the Heisman Trophy, not one of the main favorites, but he's up there on the board. The offense is going to be good with Lincoln Riley calling the shots. Gary Patterson has come out of retirement, the former TCU coach, who's been out of coaching for 5 years to coach the defense. If it goes well, USC can make the playoff. If it doesn't go well, I think Lincoln Riley will be looking for a new job, and USC will be hiring a new coach. How about Bob Chesney and UCLA? A lot of positivity right now. I haven't said that in a long time around the UCLA football program. The former JMU coach led JMU to the playoff. People think that this guy is the next big thing. You know who agrees? Nico Iamaleava, the former Tennessee quarterback now at UCLA, who said, not verbatim, I'm going to paraphrase, basically, I had no interest in entering the portal once Chesney was hired. Iamaleava was awesome 2 years ago at Rocky Top for Tennessee, not as good last year at UCLA. My sense is he'll have a better year this year for Chesney and Michigan. With Kyle Whittingham at coach, and Bryce Underwood, the second-year quarterback, who was the top freshman quarterback coming into last year. Can they get this rolling here? Can Bryce Underwood become that true megastar dual-threat option that a lot of us expect? If he can, I think Michigan, not USC, will be the fourth best team in the Big Ten and the most likely Big Ten school outside of the Big Three to make the college football playoff. We'll talk more Big Ten coming up next with our friend Dave Wanstead here on You Better You Bet.
The Raiders are not...
Now, back to You Better You Bet with Nick Kostos, presented by BetMGM on Westwood One Sports.
Awesome edition of the show today, as per usual. Love being here with you on You Better You Bet. I will be back on Monday, off tomorrow. Our friend Chris Mack has you covered on a Friday on You Better You Bet. Thanks to our guests, Steve Phillips, MLB Network Radio, Dave LaGreca from Busted Open Radio. The coach, Dave Wanstead, will join us in a moment. Thanks to Bill, thanks to Laura, thanks to Tyler, Kenny, Mike, Dan, and our crew. I think I got everybody. And our show sponsor is BetMGM. Did your home run bet come up short? Thanks to today's MLB No Sweat Home Run Token, you don't have to worry if your bet didn't clear the fences. Just activate the token when you bet on any player to hit a homer, and if that player fails to go yard, you'll get your stake back in bonus bets. Download the BetMGM app today, and please gamble responsibly. Joining us now on the show to talk some Big Ten ahead of the season, Big Ten Network analyst, former NFL college football head coach, Super Bowl champion, the scorer in Chicago, the coach, Dave Wanstead on You Better You Bet. Coach, it's your pal Nick Kostos. Football season must be here if we're chatting. Good to hear your voice. How's it going?
It is, Nick. I am here in Chicago, and gearing up. Like you mentioned, the score and everything else that I do. I'll be heading up to Bears practice. Let's see, I was talking to Ben last week. I think I'm going up there. I know I'm going up there on Tuesday. They're going to have pads on. They'll be hitting some people Tuesday, so I'm excited to see that. And then you mentioned the Big Ten. You know, I was with a bunch of people last night from the Orange Bowl, and we were talking some Big Ten football. So we'll be ready to go on that in a couple of weeks too.
I absolutely love it. And next time we have you on the show, Coach, definitely want to talk some Chicago Bears with you. I think I'm going to pick the Bears to go back to the playoffs. So next time Coach is on, we'll talk some Chicago Bears with him. But for now, let's hit the Big Ten, and I'm curious. I want to start at the top of the board here, Coach, where at our show sponsor, BetMGM, 3 of the top 5 teams to win the national championship all come from the Big Ten: Ohio State, Indiana, and Oregon. If I handed you $100, which I'm not going to do because I'm very cheap, but if I did and said, I want you to back one of these 3 schools to win the national championship this year, who do you like the most? Which program do you like the most right now of these 3? Ohio State, Indiana, Oregon, and why?
I would say, wow, I'm going to go with Ohio State. My top 2 picks, even though I'm a big Kirk Cignetti and my daughters went to Indiana, I would say Ohio State because, well, them and Oregon, as we know, have the 2 quarterbacks coming back. Oregon could be the first quarterback taken in this year's draft. We all know that. But the kid that I think is the least talked about is the Sayan kid from Ohio State. He was a true freshman last year. The guy completed over 70% of his passes. Yes, he has good skill, but I like Ohio State. Yeah, Matt Patricia, adding him to that defensive staff, long time, NFL assistant. I think that's made a huge difference.
I want to hit you with the other big NFL assistant on Ohio State's coaching staff. Coach, there are going to be a lot of people, myself included, people who will be skeptics. And to be fair, I was a skeptic last year of Matt Patricia. I was wrong. Ohio State's defense was incredible last year. But there will be skeptics of Arthur Smith, the former NFL head coach and offensive play caller with the Steelers last year, right? Who's the offensive coordinator this year in Columbus. What do you say to skeptics of Arthur Smith like me and the Ohio State offense this year?
Well, that is a little bit different, and that did kind of catch most people off guard. Is he more than qualified? 100%. Does he know what he's doing? 100%. He'll relate great with the players. You saw some of the comments coming out of media day with the quarterback, receivers. They all love him because you know what they're getting? They're getting an NFL coach. In their minds, they're getting an NFL system influence. But Ryan Day, is an offensive guy. So how much they change, how much influence he has, Nick, it's not going to be a total overhaul. I think that Arthur will add to the mix, try to improve where they need to get better, make some nice adjustments. So it won't be a total overhaul. So I think it'll be a good thing for them.
All right. But if that's true, I think Ohio State can absolutely win the national championship this season. I want to stick with these big three, Coach, and let's go to Indiana where, Kurt Cignetti, I feel like beyond reproach at this point where he's earned the benefit of the doubt. So for me, the question with Indiana obviously goes to the quarterback position, right? Fernando Mendoza is now a Las Vegas Raider after winning the Natty and the Heisman Trophy last year. And questions about if Josh Hoover, the TCU transfer, can he fill those huge Fernando Mendoza shoes? What is your thought on that ahead of this season for Indiana with Hoover replacing Mendoza?
I think he can. Everything that I've seen, he's the same type of athlete. He might have, people say he might have a little stronger arm. I don't know. The decision making under pressure will be the big key for him. But for the history, with Kurt Cignetti and players and developing, Mike Shanahan, their offensive coordinator, has been with them, 9 years. Tino Sinceri's back with them, their quarterback coach, who's been with them for, 6-7 years. So, it's nothing new that they're going to have to do to get this football team ready. They've been down this route. Their defensive coordinator's back. I mentioned the offensive coordinator. The defensive coordinator's back. They've got a good nucleus of defensive guys coming back from last year. So, nobody had them as the favorite last year. They were kind of like the Penn State. They brought in all those guys from George Madison. Penn State brought in 25 players this year from Iowa State. So, they were a little bit of an unknown, so they're not going to surprise anybody. I think they'll be in the hunt. I don't think they're the best team right now, to be honest with you.
Couple more minutes here with our friend, the coach, Dave Wanstead, Big Ten Network, The Score in Chicago, among other outlets on Twitter at Coach Wanstead. Coach, USC, a really interesting team this year, make or break year, it feels like, for head coach Lincoln Riley. And I think it's interesting that to kind of fix the defense, right, he has turned to former TCU head coach who's been out of college football for a while. It's in the College Football Hall of Fame now. Gary Patterson coming to run this defense at USC. Now, we know the offense is going to be pretty good with Jaden Mayava, but do you think Gary Patterson, after a couple-year layoff, can get this defense to the level it needs to be at for USC to really contend in the Big Ten?
I'll tell you what, Nick, I think Gary Patterson will make the same type of impact that Matt Patricia did. I know Gary a little bit. I've followed him because of us being defensive coaches. I've studied him. This guy's good. He is really good. And, let's not lose sight, too, that USC has 15 starters back, including the quarterback who you mentioned. So they've got the nucleus of their football team back, not counting some portal guys that they added that are very talented players. So if you're asking me about a sleeper team, because you mentioned Patterson tightening up the defense, they got talent. And the guys that they return, including the quarterback, they are amazing. If right now, when I do my Big Ten show, they're going to ask me who's my sleeper team, I'm going to say USC.
Do you think they'll make the playoff?
I do think they'll make the playoffs. Yes, I do. Yes, I do.
I'll tell you what.
Yep.
USC is one of those schools in college sports or pro teams. Like, sports is more fun when USC is good. College football is more fun when USC is good. I certainly hope you're right, and USC does have a great year. Maybe the final question, Coach. What about Michigan this year? Fascinating, right? With Kyle Whittingham taking over, and obviously an offseason of turmoil kind of off the field for Michigan with Ward Manuel and obviously Sharon Moore. But Kyle Whittingham taking over. Bryce Underwood, obviously a stud quarterback, entering year 2 for him. What about the Michigan Wolverines here? Year 2 for Underwood, year 1 for Kyle Whittingham.
Yeah, I think, all the turmoil that they've gone through the last few years, besides being a great coach. If you asked all the coaches in college football that have won as many games as anybody but never won a national championship, Kyle Whittingham would go right to the top of the list in my mind. I mean, what that guy did at Utah, and his teams always played big in big games, and now he's going to be able to get a step up as far as talent at Michigan. To me, Underwood is the key. What are they going to do with Underwood? I mean, last year they started the season. He's going to be a pro quarterback, and we're going to drop back and blah 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 blah. Sounds good. That didn't work. Then they got to the point halfway through the season, if you remember, where everything was rollout. We got to roll him out right, roll him out left, so that he only has to see half the field and get the ball out quicker. And then it kind of went to the point, okay, you're going to roll out, keep the ball and run. So I mean, I think the biggest thing that I'm going to be focused on with Michigan is what style of offense and how are they going to use Underwood's talents? Because he's such a great athlete and he can do everything, but they need to make up their minds. This is what he does best. This is what we want him to do. Now let's go to work.
Coach, you're the best. Hopefully the first of many times we will talk to you this football season. And next time, want to talk some Caleb Williams, some Ben Johnson, and the Chicago Bears with you. Stay well, my friend, and we'll talk soon.
All right, Nick. Good talking to you, buddy. Be safe.
The coach, Dave Wanstead, joining us here on You Better You Bet. I'll tell you what, Bill Zimmerman, our executive producer, with us now for the trivia question. Bill, if he's right about Gary Patterson's defensive impact, USC is going to the playoff this year.
Yeah. And look, I'm with you. Look, Lincoln Riley, you can say a lot of different things about Lincoln Riley. I know a lot of Oklahoma fans were not big fans of his. We're happy to see him go. But when they're firing on all cylinders, like you said, it's better when USC is good. Love to see
What
him
did
back.
You just, you're out of breath. Did you just like run around the block or something? Are you all right?
I had to run downstairs and grab some water. I ran out of water and I was coughing. It's like, that's not going to be good for the
all
trivia.
Right, let's
so
do
I
this.
literally just
let's
ran
do
downstairs and
this.
came back up in 2
all right,
minutes.
I want you to take it because when you're out of breath and you're trying to talk on the radio, it's very hard. So you take a deep breath, hit us with the trivia question of the day.
All right, let's dive in here, Nick. You were talking about John Harbaugh.
Bill, my recommendation would be like go for a walk around the block today. Do something for yourself here. What's the trivia question? What do we got?
Hey, we've been exercising. We've been jogging for a while now, Nick.
Oh,
Up to 2.5 miles, 3 times a week.
Really?
Indeed.
Great job out of you. Good stuff, buddy.
So, all right. John Harbaugh is attempting to become the first NFL head coach to win a Super Bowl with 2 different teams. No one's ever done it. But Nick, one thing he could do is reach the Super Bowl after winning a Super Bowl with the first team. Who are the only 2 head coaches who won a Super Bowl as a head coach with the first team and appeared in a Super Bowl with their second team?
Mike Holmgren and Bill Parcells.
That is correct. I said you'd need 15 seconds. I guess you needed 2.
So, I mean, like I say, I guess it could have like not come to me quickly, right? So Holmgren wins the Super Bowl with the Packers, loses with Seattle to the Steelers in Super Bowl 40. Bill Parcells wins a couple Super Bowls with the Giants and then loses Super Bowl 31 to Mike Holmgren, coincidentally, in the Green Bay Packers.
There you go.
So you have the little tie-in there with Parcells and Holmgren. Parcells loses with New England. Holmgren wins with Green Bay. And then Holmgren would lose to Bill Cowher and the Steelers in Super Bowl 40. All right, thank you to Bill for the trivia question. Let's wrap up the show with our bets for tonight. Laura, please drop the dope-ass beat. We have the dope-ass beat. There it is. Okay. So yesterday, I gave you the Yankees. I felt really confident in that. Not as confident as I feel in today's bet. And I'll just tell you this. As a New York... And I think, I don't know if anyone tracks this stuff, but when I say things like this about my teams, I feel like I'm usually right. The Yankees last night, we played the audio for you. I talked about it. Lose in embarrassing fashion. And Aaron Boone, defends the indefensible. I promise you this. Not promise to the point that you should, bet the mortgage on it or this month's rent. But the White Sox are going to beat the Yankees today. With Ryan Weathers, #toeing the slab. This is a game designed in a laboratory for the Yankees to lose after what we saw last night. So I will lay the White Sox at a short price. White Sox -115 over my Bronx Bombers. That does it for the Thursday edition of the show. I am off tomorrow. I'll be back on Monday. Chris Mack has you covered on a phenomenal Sports Friday. Until then, I'm Nick Kostos wishing you minimal sweats, winning bets, the absolute very best of luck. Our good friends, Bleck and Abdallah, coming up next.